Hi, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Ruken podcast. So, on today's episodes, like all the others before, we have a special guest. So, Haneen, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello everyone, my name is Haneen and I study digital marketing in Doha University and I'm very happy to be here with Dana today.
All right, fit to be here with you too. So, today's episode, we're gonna speak about independence and self-love and everything in between that genre. So, before you start, how would you define independence?
I think independence is one of the most important things anyone could have, and especially a woman. A woman has to be independent in her life and not rely on anyone but herself and has to have self-love for herself so she doesn't need anyone else in her life and she feels like she's enough for herself.
So, during what you said, you spoke about self-love. How do you think you could define that, and how do you think it goes hand in hand with independence?
Independence is a really big part of self love, and self love depends on independence. So that's a very complicated sentence, but that means if you love yourself and if you give yourself everything you want and you give yourself confidence, you'll always feel independent and you don't need like others to be in your life to make you feel better. Like you can make yourself feel better and you don't need anyone else to jump in your life and be like hi, and then suddenly they start ruining things that you built yourself. You want to be enough for yourself, and it's not a problem if you have someone to rely on but not fully relying. There's a difference between like emotionally relying or financially relying. It's totally fine to have someone out there to help you feel better, but you have to tell yourself that I'm still okay with no one. Like I can be the one to make myself feel better, and yeah.
So I feel like that point really relates to, I'd say, independence more than self love, which is like you are okay with being yourself. There are things about yourself that, for example, if you were to win a competition, you wouldn't let that define you. You'd be independent of yourself, you'd love yourself. So even if you won that or didn't win that, obviously you're happy because you won, you're happy because you achieved that thing. But even if you hadn't, you're still, you have self love in yourself that you don't think that defines you, you don't think that matters. You feel good enough about yourself to not let that control you, right?
Yeah, exactly. So for example, like you said, if you lost in something, it is totally fine to lose in something and it's totally fine to win. Life is a game at the end. Like you win, you lose, you learn from your lessons, and you have to accept that in life, that you learn from the mistakes and you work on them so you're not falling in the same mistake again.
So I think that's really important point you made about learning from your mistakes. I think that's also a big part of independence because you're not going to be independent if you only learn from other people or something like that. A lot of people always tell me to learn from other people's mistakes, which I think they have a point there. But sometimes I feel like you need to learn from your mistakes more. That's a really big building point of making you independent.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because like let's say you have 1,000 experienced people above you who you're just gonna listen to what they say. Obviously, everyone's gonna have different experiences and they're gonna learn from it differently. So you learning from what you experience is gonna help you yourself, right? Do you
Exactly.
agree?
Yeah. Of course, I agree with that because everybody have different lives, and we don't live the same life, and we learn differently. We experience differently. Maybe someone else could think that what they're doing is wrong, but in your opinion and your point of view, it wouldn't be wrong, and it would be like totally fine. That's why you have to learn from your own mistakes, not others.
So we were talking about independence and how you're supposed to learn from your mistakes and things like that. So I feel like we could also talk about how early you should learn it. Do you think people should learn it very early on in their life or later? And how do you think that affects them?
I think people should start learning independence from a really young age, so when they grow up and they have the ability to be independent in their life, like in all parts of their life, like emotionally and financially and just everything in their life, so they already have a backup plan for everything. That's why I think they have to actually start learning independence and read about it more from a really young age.
So, you said about how we should learn it as early as possible and things like that. I think when we're talking about self love and independence, but more specifically independence, because independence means you rely on yourself first, right? So, if you learn it very early on, this could cause some, for example, attachment issues or some other issues with children or even teenagers, not even just children. So, how do you think we could overcome that but still learn to be independent?
I think we can overcome that by telling people around us that we're learning about how to be independent and to tell them to help us in this and to support us and to be part of it. By that, you will feel like you are being supported by your family members, your friends, and people around you. And that's gonna make you feel better and it will not cause any issues with you.
Okay, so we spoke about how you're supposed to learn from when you're young and things like that. But I wanted to go over a point where a lot of people consider independence with being alone. Like if you're independent, you're alone. You like by being independent, you can learn to be alone. Like that's not a problem with you. But some people always put it hand in hand with independence means being alone. Do you agree?
No. I don't think that independence is being alone at all. Independence is like you are good by your own. Like you can do good if you are alone, and you can do good if you are with many people. You can affect those people with good points, with good advices in their life, and you can also affect yourself with good things and bad things. But you can overcome these bad things if you believe in yourself and if you know that you can actually like overcome these things.
Some people always use an excuse to not being independent where they say you always need someone to rely on. They've always taught us since we were kids you need someone, you need a friend, mother, parent. Now, I do not mean in any way that you shouldn't rely on your parents, your friends, whatever. But I feel like the main person you should rely on is yourself. You shouldn't tell anyone all your problems for them to help you. I feel like you need to keep it to yourself, even if it's someone really, really close to you, or your best friend or whatever. You have to be your own person. I feel like usually people who have best friends since they're kids, they usually like you feel like they become the same person at one point.
Yeah.
Yeah, they tell each other everything. They're always together, and I feel like that really takes away independence from them. When they're adults, they're gonna have to go their separate ways. Like, what are they gonna do at that point?
I don't really think that's an obstacle. Like, I think when they share everything with each other, they can help each other for being independent because at the end, everyone is different from each other. And these two friends has two different personalities, but they get along with each other. So maybe they can help each other by being independent and advise each other and improve themselves in a lot of fields in life. And I think that's a really good thing actually, like sharing with friends but still being independent. That's a really good thing to you and to your friends so they don't like think, oh, she don't want to talk to us or anything. No, it's very nice to have friends and close friends and talk to your family about it, but they still know that you are good alone. Like no one can affect you and you will do very good by your own, and you don't actually like need someone to the point that you can't live without them.
But my point goes to the people you were referring to, the people who can't live without these people, or not like they can't live without them, but they feel empty without them, or their decisions, their life. It's always about them being together. Like I won't do this if you won't do this. I won't join this if you won't join this. They often start taking from each other to the point where this person can't be on by themselves. Like if the other person doesn't reply to them, they don't know what to do with themselves. They can't sit alone with their own peace. They need this other person. They feel like they come together. So I feel like that really takes away from a person's independence.
Okay, so I think that having really close friends that you tell them everything and all the details in your life is a really good thing. So you feel that there's a person who understands you, who thinks the way you think, and who improves the good things you have and warn you if you're doing something wrong but you're not aware of it. So I have a really close friend, two friends actually, and I tell them everything. And I think that doesn't take from my independence or their independence. I think it's a really good thing that we support each other for being independent. Like each one of us has different goals. Each one of us has different lives, and we all live differently and we all think differently. But we support each other in that way and in a good way, you know?
So I think friendships like what you're referring to, yeah, those are positive fully, but you know the ones I'm referring to,
Yeah,
yeah?
yeah.
As someone, me personally, I don't feel like I'm the type of person to tell someone everything. Like I don't have a certain friend who knows everything. I go to them to tell them everything first because I don't know if that really goes down to my personality or if that's how I view independence. But I feel like me personally, I'd rather keep these things to myself because I don't like other people affecting the decisions I make. So for you, maybe your friends didn't really affect the decision you make because you're independent, you're by yourself. For example, in this university, there's some people who'd give up going to a dream college, like dream university in a different country. They've worked so hard to go because their friend didn't go, couldn't. So how could these people, after this long amount of time of being this co-independent to someone, how do you think they could live their own life?
Well, I think these kind of people who rely this much on other people won't get success in their lives that much, because what if that person is living her or his dream life and you are not, because you're attached to them? And I think this kind of attachment is toxic and it's not good for your mental health, or for you as a person, for you as a human. And I think if you worked really hard to achieve something and you didn't achieve it because of that person didn't achieve it, then you have to sit with yourself. You have to talk to yourself. Am I doing the right thing for myself? Am I following my dreams? Am I doing what I worked for? Is this what I deserve? So you have to actually like sit with yourself and talk to yourself, because talking to yourself is very effective in a certain way, and I support that. I do that a lot of times, and it helps me, and I recommend it.
Okay, so now that we've gone over that point, I hope anyone here who relies on someone that much just takes a step back, thinks about it. Both of you, I feel like this is really something you need to do. Like after listening or watching this, if you rely that much on a certain person, even if it's your sibling, twin sister, maybe, like I think you need to think about it. Think how this impacts you. If you didn't have this friend, what would go differently in your life, right? So they need to think about it that way. Okay, so now I have another question about self love. So I feel like we've been talking about independence most of this episode. How do you think someone achieves self love?
So I think if you want to get to the point that you realize that you love yourself, the first step you could do is to imagine how would you love someone else the most. What would you give them? What would you offer them? How would you treat them? I want you to treat yourself the way you would treat the most person you love in your entire life. So if you start treating yourself the way you would treat the person that you love the most, you would realize how valuable you are, how your soul is expensive, and you have to take care of yourself before taking care of others. And that's a really important point in mental health, and to gain more positive energy in your life, and to be more confident about yourself more. And yeah, what do you think?
So I agree with the point where you said you need to love yourself like the person you would love most in your life. Because most people they don't even find in themselves what they love most. So I think something you could do if you genuinely feel like there's nothing special about yourself, right? I don't know, maybe some people feel like that.
Yeah.
I feel like this is caused by a great lack of confidence. So I think making your confidence higher also makes your self love higher. But anyway, let me get back to my point. So maybe you could ask the people around you, the people who are closest to you, what do you think is special about me? What do you love about me? And the way they love it about you, you can learn to love it about yourself too, right?
Exactly. I think if you find asking people about things in yourself hard, because I kind of find that a little bit hard, but I don't mind actually doing it. Listen to the positive things that people say to you, like the compliments they give you. They don't say it for no reason. They say it because there's something that attracts them in you, something that you are special with. There's like about 8 billion people on this earth. Each one of them has a different thing in it. Each one of them has a special personality, a special thing in them, and you can always tell it by looking at them, by by interacting with them. So just basically everyone you see is different from the other one that you see and the other one that you see, and everybody has a different thing in them and a special thing in them, and it's mostly a beautiful thing, but you can't really like find it easily. It's like hard to find, but there is actually like a good thing in everyone. So yeah.
Okay, so my last question to end this episode is, what do you think is the biggest and main relationship between independence and attachment?
Well, I think if you are attached to something, not someone, or to a good person, that you want to be like them, you want to be independent like them, you want to achieve, or your goals is similar to their goals, so you want to be like them in a good way, not in a bad way. I don't think attachment will be bad at this point. But if you're attached to someone with bad habits, with a bad personality, and you're just attached to it because you can't really stop it. If the person that you're attached to is bad, then here you stop and talk to yourself. Why am I attached to them? What is this person giving you in return for you being attached to them this much? And is there like any good thing in them that you like, so that's why you're attached to them? I think you should really focus on that point and find good things in whatever you're attached to and try to achieve this good thing if you don't have it in yourself.
I There's 2 points I wanted to go over. The last thing you said and something you said before. You brought up how you need to be attached to a new person if the person you're attached to is bad or has bad habits or things like that. So I feel like that completely disregards what we were talking about before, which is about not being attached to anyone. I feel like there's a difference between taking inspiration and like being attached or relying on someone. I feel like taking inspiration goes with what you said completely. We need people like inspired or attached with people who have good habits, do good things, because these are people who could change us for the better, so we could have these things for the better in ourselves, right? But being attached, I feel like, is really,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's like a bit different, I feel like.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, you have a point. Actually, I was talking about people who has a big attachment and they can't really like get rid of it easily. Like I have a big attachment and I think I can't really get rid of it, and I love it because it's a good attachment. You know, it's not bad. It helps me. Like the attachment that I have doesn't give me like bad or negative energy. You understand me? So if that person or that thing that you're attached to is bad or toxic or giving you bad energy, I think you should start trying to get rid of it or to be less attached to it and not get affected that much by it.
Okay, so I do think you have a point, don't get me wrong, but I feel like no matter how good the attachment may be, it's still an attachment. Like if this person or thing you're attached to, what if it all of a sudden leaves for any like reason? Maybe something happened, you if it's a person, you stop being friends, or for example if it's a thing, the thing is just gone, right? I feel like that's a bad thing because you wouldn't be able to function the same way you did before without this thing or this person, right?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And it's gonna take you a big amount of time to realize the big loss that you got in your life. It's gonna be a big gap for you, and you're gonna sit there and say like, what am I gonna do now? How am I gonna function my life now without them? They were like really important to me, and they were like a big part of my life. And here, when you get to the point that you glow up mentally, you glow up in the way you think, and when you get over them, then when you realize that you're actually independent now, and you don't need anyone in your life.
Okay, so I think we went over the most points people tend to ask or think of when they want to speak about this topic. Now, my final and closing things I want to say before we end this is, from all we've heard, if anyone here decides to think that what we're saying is don't have friends or don't have relationships or anything like that, that's completely not the point here. What we're trying to tell you is don't get attached. Have friends, have good relationships with people, keep people around you. That's completely healthy and completely normal, and it's good. We're not telling you to stop that at all. What we're telling you is to stop these attachments. Stop being so attached to people that without them, your life is going to be destroyed. Be independent, love yourself. You don't need someone to love yourself for you. And that's gonna get you places in life. So, do you have any advice for anyone listening before we end this?
Of course. I'm not gonna say anything more of what she said. I agree with her and everything. And I think the most important thing for you to be independent is to love yourself and to be confident about yourself and to always feel that you are enough and you have everything you want. Even though if you don't want to, fake it until you make it.
That's right. So, thank you for listening to this episode. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye.